Welcome to Royal Kingdom. It's your boy Bobby King, your African best reactor. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate your first time. Don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to the Royal family. This is the Royal Gang, bro. Actually, this time is crazy. This time is quite interesting for me because I never did history, and yeah, we are going to react to the 10 most surprising historical coincidences ever. Yeah, I did geography. Yeah, we were doing those crazy stuff of studying rocks, and yeah, crazy volcanoes and whatever. So this one will be quite interesting for me, and I can't wait to see what history says about us. Yeah, so let's go straight to the video.
Number 10. Alien figure.
Bro, you want to tell me you don't have an intro, so you just go direct to number 10?
Number 10. Alien figurines. In Mexico, archaeologists have discovered plenty of interesting artifacts dating back to around the year 300. These pre-Columbian artifacts come in the form of statues, which look eerily similar to other statues found across the world in Asia. In Mexico, the statues depict human-like beings with odd, almost circular tube structures on their heads. While at first glance the tube things may look like hats, nobody really knows what they are. But the crazy part is that these statues from both Mexico.
No, 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 no. There is a. I always say that. I always feel that we are kind of primitive in a way. We lack some knowledge of things that we should know. We cannot say we are the most advanced kind of people when we lack such information. If we cannot explain something like this, why are we the smart? Why do we believe that the most smartest people ever lived then? We are primitive in a way, bro. Because if something happened 300 BC, bro, that's ages, man. We should be knowing this kind of information. We should have the information. Someone is lying to us, bro. We know the smartest people ever lived. We not.
And China have the same tube-like hat structures on their heads.
Okay.
Now, what could this suspicious coincidence mean? The first thought is that the two cultures got the idea for their sculptures from the same source. But how could this be possible when the figurines from China's Sanxingdui ruins date back 3,000 years? That's over 1,000 years earlier than the statues found in the Veracruz state of Mexico. And seeing that the people from ancient Mexico and ancient China never met face to face, the only reasonable explanation for the coincidence is aliens. Is it? I don't know.
Aliens. Yeah, I'm a believer of aliens exist. I don't know about you.
As outrageous as it sounds, the statues from both nations do appear to depict weird, not quite human humanoids. They also share many of the same attributes. Many would love to believe that they were inspired by aliens and maybe they visited both civilizations in the distant past, then were immortalized in each society's artwork. The more likely explanation is that the shape must have a deeper spiritual or practical purpose represented in a similar way by both societies.
Really, nigga? Oh.
Number
I have to stop being cheap. I'm going back to premium because I can't stand adverts when I'm doing this.
9. Hitler and Napoleon. Adolf Hitler and Napoleon Bonaparte have some of the most surprising things in common. Yes, both were technically warmongering rulers of a European nation desperate to control the world, but their similarities go beyond that. Internet sleuths have pointed out it all comes down to the number 129. Napoleon was born in the year 1760, and Hitler was born in the year 1889. That's a difference of approximately 129 years. When Napoleon came into power, it
That's weird. That's weird.
was 1804. When Hitler came into power, it was 1933. Yet again, a difference of approximately 129 years. And the similarities just keep coming. Napoleon invaded Vienna in 1812. Hitler did it in 1941. Yet again, 129 years. When Napoleon was finally defeated for good, it was 1816. When Hitler lost the war for Germany, it was 1945. The difference is, you guessed it, 129 years. Of course, this doesn't prove anything tangible, it could just be an outrageous coincidence. Then again, it could be something spiritualists call synchronicity, when certain events sync up with one another for reasons beyond our own understanding. Napoleon and Hitler each came to power at the age of 44. Both attacked Russia 6 years later when they were 52. Both failed to take over Russia, and when they both lost the war, they were both 56 years old. Number 8.
Now that is crazy. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Is it a story about being reborn? Is it repeating itself? I don't know how to. History was one hell of a subject that is so confusing for me. I don't understand it at all. I really don't.
Stonehenges Cousin. Across the water from Britain, there is a structure 4,000 years old that seems to be directly related to Stonehenge. It's a ringed sanctuary that was discovered in a small German village, something the experts are referring to as the cousin of Stonehenge. According to Archaeology magazine, the ancient structure can be found near Pomelta, sitting in the middle of a potato field. It's been undergoing excavations for the past 15 years. Archaeologists believe this structure was built either by the same people's descendants who built Stonehenge or by European visitors who witnessed the monument and went back home to build their own. After all, there are only about 300 years separating the two megaliths. The same rituals were likely going on at both sites, though researchers still have no idea what those rituals entailed. The purpose of both Stonehenge and its cousin in Germany remains a mystery. Keep in mind that both these structures were built at the beginning of the Bronze Age, a transitional period for humans in which we learned how to work metal, develop complex social structures.
Really? I don't believe that bronze was start being used just how many years ago? I don't believe that. I think metal has been there for a very long time. I don't know. Never did history, but I feel sometimes history gives us dates wrongly.
And to build wheels. But for some bizarre reason that scientists can't put a finger on, early humans were obsessed with building giant circles out of standing stones. And while most scientists agree it probably had something to do with the observable movements of the sun, there is no real way to know the truth. Number 7. Cosmic coincidence. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and thought to yourself, that can't be real, there's no way, you're not alone. Space is a strange place, and so too is our very own moon. In fact, the moon has so many strange coincidences, it almost seems as if it was placed in its exact spot on purpose by someone who was extraordinarily good at math. The real coincidence has to do with the size of the moon, the sun, and the position of all three celestial objects. You've probably seen an eclipse at least once in your life, and you may have wondered how the small little moon was able to blot out the sun. After all, isn't the moon significantly smaller than the sun? The answer is yes. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. Coincidentally, the moon is 400 times closer to Earth than the sun is. These are exact numbers we're talking about, making it seem somewhat impossible that things ended up the way they are. The only reason that eclipses work is because of the number 400.
Bro, even if you say what, this cannot be a coincidence now. Mm-mm. Someone did something. Someone did creation. Someone did the mathematics right. That's why we have 20% oxygen existing, not 25.
If the moon was only 399 times closer to Earth, a full eclipse would never be possible. Number 6. Alien skulls around the world. During the 5th century AD, people all throughout Central Europe were practicing skull deformation. They would elongate their skulls by binding them with some kind of wrapping, or even just a pair of hard wooden boards. The result of these skull modifications initially led archaeologists to believe they had stumbled upon alien skeletons when they were first discovered. For example, there is a graveyard in Hungary excavated in 1961, in which scientists found a massive collection of elongated skulls. What appeared to be alien relics were actually the remnants of a community of people who deformed their heads for unknown reasons. Now let's go to Mexico, where a very similar cemetery was excavated in 1999. This cemetery was found by residents of a small Mexican village called Onavas. They discovered it completely by accident during the construction of an irrigation canal. 25 human burials were uncovered, with 13 of them having those elongated and deformed skulls. At the time, they seemed to be the skeletons of aliens. Even worse, these ones had mutilated teeth, the result of filing the teeth into unique shapes. But these are hardly the only deformed skulls that have ever been found. According to what scientist Karina Nipper told Life Science, skull modification can be traced all the way back to the Paleolithic era, also known as the Stone Age. It spread across the world in the 2nd century BC. It moved from Central Asia all the way into Europe, becoming relatively popular during the last days of the Roman Empire. But why? That's the real question. Why was it so popular for so long? And how did people living in Central America and South America come up with the idea to do the same thing? The inspiration behind these body modifications is a mystery, but it's likely that the practice simply stemmed from what was deemed attractive at the time, much like the practices of foot binding, piercing, and tattooing. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 5. Mysterious.
That part is crazy because I always wonder how could people come up with such ideas, because I feel it has to start from somewhere. There is no way you can make something that doesn't exist at all to existence. They saw someone and they believed maybe it's more beautiful looking that way.
Dwarf houses. For around 2,000 years through the Northwest Caucasus in Russia, thousands of ancient dolmens were built. These ancient stone buildings were called ispun by the locals, which translates roughly to House of Dwarves. The Caucasus spans much of the land between the Black Sea and Mount Elbrus. And when I say dolmen, I mean an ancient megalithic structure made from stone blocks. A dolmen usually had a single chamber, one large stone as a ceiling, and a small access point. No matter where the dolmens were made, they were almost always the same. And this brings us to the coincidence. Throughout the wastelands of Russia, scientists have found no less than 3,000 dolmens. They were used explicitly for human burials, but scientists have also found dolmens in other parts of Europe, in Korea, and throughout mainland Asia. The coincidence is that all these ancient cultures started building nearly identical stone dolmens or dwarf houses at the exact same time, and for the exact same reason, but we just don't know what it is. Number 4.
There is a certain documentary I saw also for India where they believed in those kind of structures. They're still there. I think so. Where the still form of structures, rocks are surrounded, have a rock top, rock walls, and they also believed it's meant for dwarfs. I've seen I've seen such a documentary before, but I feel these people were connected, not by internet like us, but in one way or another, they knew what was going on out there. They really had their own communication skills. I don't know how, but trust you me, those coincidences are too many.
The suspicious license plate. World War I began with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria. While riding in his car with his wife, he was shot and killed in the city of Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. His assassination triggered a series of events that would plunge the world into war and chaos. The car that Franz Ferdinand was riding in had a license plate. The number on the plate was A111118. Pulling these digits apart can represent them as 11-11-18 or November 11th, 1918. Coincidentally, this was the exact same date that the armistice was signed to end the war. In other words, the numbers on the license plate of the vehicle in which the Archduke was riding in, the man whose assassination started the war, were the same numbers as the day that the war ended. It's a bizarre coincidence that doesn't mean much, but it is still pretty spooky. Amazingly, nobody even noticed the coincidence until 2004, when Mike Dash, a writer for the Smithsonian Institute, was at the museum in Vienna where the infamous car is still on display. He noticed the numbers on the plate. He put the numbers into context, noticing a strange coincidence that people who had been working at the museum for decades had missed. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below.
Now that's creepy, 100% creepy. Man, not again, bro. Not
My
again.
job is to make college easier because students have a lot on their
God alive.
Number 3. Twin Typhoons. The great Mongol army of Kublai Khan should, in theory, have decimated Japan in the 13th century. The Mongolian Empire had taken down every single army that they went up against at the time. They had already conquered most of China and the surrounding regions, and were setting up to be the greatest power ever seen on Earth. So why didn't Kublai Khan ever take control of Japan? His invasion of the island nation failed because of a pair of bizarre coincidences that are honestly hard to believe. If Kublai Khan had taken Japan, history as we know it could look much different today. However, the truth of the matter is that when the Mongolian fleet tried to land in Japan in 1274, they were battered away by what the Japanese called divine kamikaze winds. The fleet was forced to turn back because of an uncontrollable typhoon. When they tried the invasion again 7 years later in 1281, the same thing happened. A typhoon pushed the army back once again. In the 7 years between, there hadn't been a single typhoon. It was as if some divine presence was pushing the Mongolian army away. After their second failed attempt, they simply gave up.
That's the most creepiest thing ever. Those guys.
Up on Japan and went on to do other things. Number 2. Pi and the Pyramid. John Taylor was the first one to suggest that the builders of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the biggest pyramid in Giza, had incorporated the number pi into its design. He said that if you divided the perimeter of the pyramid by its height, you could obtain a reasonable approximation of pi. Not the exact thing, but pretty close. This made him theorize that the ancient builders had intended the pyramid to be a representation of Earth. The perimeter was supposed to correspond to the circumference of the equator. His ideas were published in a book about the pyramid back in 1859. After that, more and more scientists got on board with the theory of pi. We now know that if you divide the perimeter of the Great Pyramid by its height, you get an approximation of pi within 0.04% accuracy. The same can be said when adding up the slope of each face of the pyramid. The level of accuracy here seems absolutely ridiculous, if of course the theories are correct. It would mean that the Egyptians had mastered the art of math. And why not? If they really had used this pyramid as an approximate representation of the planet, it would mean they had somehow measured the entire globe. And this does not seem like something.
I told you we are not the most smartest people ever lived. I told you that. There are some people who are crazy differently, knew so much that even us, we don't know in this generation. Yeah, we don't.
They could have done. But maybe they had more knowledge of the stars and of math than we give them credit for. But the remaining question is this. Did the Egyptians really try to incorporate the mathematics of pi into the pyramid, or is it all just a surprising coincidence? Number 1. Eve and Pandora. There's a very strange coincidence surrounding the Bible and a story from Greek mythology. It involves the very first woman ever created. In the Bible, the first woman was named Eve. This is spoken of in Genesis. After God created Adam from the dust of the ground, he created Eve using Adam's rib. At the time, there was no death or suffering, there wasn't a speck of evil in the world, and everything was smooth sailing. But in the end, Eve ate the forbidden fruit against the orders of God, and because of her sin,
Forbidden fruit and forbidden apple. I don't know where the apple came from.
death and suffering swept into the world and evil made its first appearance. In Greek mythology, the first woman on the planet was Pandora. She was made from the water and earth, kind of like Adam, and then given a box that contained all the evil in the world. At the time of her creation, the world was a paradise. There was no death or suffering, and there was no evil. The evil was trapped in Pandora's box, which she was told never to open. But just like Eve, Pandora became curious and opened the box. Because of her curiosity, after breaking the rules, she unleashed evil on a global scale. Chronologically speaking, the story of Pandora came first. It's impossible to say whether the Bible copied the story, but you have to admit there are quite a few similarities. In both cases, the first woman is blamed for the origin of evil in a world that was formerly a perfect paradise. Coincidence? What do you think? Thanks for watching.
What the hell? Anyway, curiosity kills us all, not them only. Trust me, no matter who they are, something that you've been told not to touch, trust me, you will try and see what is deep inside. So, blame no one. It's our curiosity. We were born very curious. Anyway, thank you so much for being with me. I truly appreciate your first time. Don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to the Royal Family. This is the Royal Gang, bro. It's your boy, Rob again. And